Hi, everyone. Welcome to our September Bicep community call. We have some nice presentations today from several teams, but we do not have a release for this month. It got pushed out a little bit because of some delays, but we're still working on things. Don't worry about that. What is a community call for? I'll speed run these next two. Basically, we just want to allow this call to be a place for you guys to ask any questions that you have and for us to give any updates on topics that we wouldn't cover in our own calls and content, and allow you guys to ask for any updates on any topics or give your reasons for wanting us to prioritize something. So please use the chat. Our team is here, and we have a questions and answers at the end. So you can also raise your hand and ask us directly. All right, our future releases. This hasn't been fully updated, so we might have other things that were going to be released in the next in the next release and the release after. We're working on local deploy, which Anthony will present on next week or next community call. And we're also working on some new features and user-defined functions and user-defined types. Something that we have been working with the portal team is export as Bicep as well as export as Terraform for whoever uses Terraform. It was the original ETA was to be released at the end of last month, but it is being delayed a little bit, but it should be out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We're working on some new MS Learn paths. There was someone who asked about not seeing any tutorial or walkthrough for user-defined types and functions. So we are working through any new features to be added to the MS Learn paths. All right, Jason.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, hello everyone. Good to be here again. I'm Jason from Microsoft Graph team, and I'm an engineer working on the Microsoft Graph Bicep extension. The Graph Bicep extension allows you to declare, deploy Microsoft Graph resources in Bicep template. Next slide, please. Yeah, for the September release, we released dynamic types versioning for Microsoft Graph Bicep types, and we have a public doc for the migration here in the slides. The built-in types are deprecated and will be retired in January next year. In the next November Bicep release, we will have a deprecation warning and also have a quick fix option in Visual Studio and VS Code. All of our samples and the quick starts have been updated to use dynamic types versioning. Next slide, please. And here is an update on our major milestones towards GA. The Azure Government Cloud will be available by the end of this month, and then China Cloud will be available by the end of next month, as well as they will support a read-only version for users resource. And there will be two other Azure Government Secret Clouds in December. For the relationship model updates, that's for group members and owners, we plan to release that in January next year. And then in March 2025, that's the scheduled date for GA, where we'll release Bicep types v1.0, and any client can use Graph Bicep extension with the user interactive flows. Next slide, please. And here are some planned updates after GA, including what if and deployment stacks, and also other portal supports, including showing the deployments for Graph resources on the Azure portal, and also export Entra resources to Bicep files from the Entra portal. and we will be continually adding more graph bicep types. Next slide, please. We would like to collect some feedback on the GA plan and the post-GA updates. So please take a few minutes to fill out this survey to let us know what you think about the GA plan and the post-GA updates. Your feedback will be important for us for the upcoming updates and our prioritizations. Yeah, please take a few minutes to fill this out, and I will post the survey results later in the chat. And yeah, that's basically my part today. And feel free to post any questions in the chat.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, we put the survey link in chat. So if you get the chance, that'd be great to answer that survey.
Thanks.
Thank you. So our next topic is the Nameof function feedback. Anthony, are you trying to share your screen for this one?
Yes, let me just do that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so for anyone not aware, Miklay, one of our maintainers for Bicep, has a pull request out to basically add a new function to Bicep, which is called Nameof. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, awesome. A Nameof basically just allows you to get the name of a symbol. So if we have var foo equals bar, and then we do, this isn't going to work yet, but let's say, so we haven't actually integrated this into Bicep yet, but we're planning on doing it pretty soon. But when this new function is here, this is going to basically give me foo, because it's taking the name of this symbol. So conceptually, it's a little bit different to the other functions that we have in Bicep, because it's not operating on the value of foo. It's just a kind of, in other languages, this might be implemented as an operator. So that's kind of what it's used for. What I wanted to talk through is just a particular nuance of the implementation. So let's uncomment this example. So let's say we have this scenario. We've got a resource B and we've got a resource A, and resource A is referencing resource B's ID here. Bicep, to simplify things, does dependency analysis, and so because we've got a reference to the symbol of B here, Bicep is essentially going to insert a depends on here to say, it's kind of equivalent to writing that, which basically means that this resource is always going to be deployed after this resource. So what I personally find, the decision I'm trying to make here is, if we have this resource A example and we're using Nameof B, then should that be equivalent to, should that basically automatically infer a dependency here, or should it not? So if we take this example, should both of these resources be deployed at the same time, or would we expect one to be deployed after the other? And the reason why I think this is a bit confusing is, any other, Nameof is implemented as a function. Any other function you have here, let's say, if we reference B in any other function, that will introduce a dependency. So the question is, should Nameof here infer a dependency, or should it not? And we just kind of wanted to pass this by the community, because it's more of a question of what are people's expectations here? Does Does anyone have any questions? I'm not sure how clearly I explained that. Okay. It seems like the feedback here is that the dependency should be inferred, just to try and make it kind of a bit like fairer. I'm just going to put two options into the chat, and if you could just put feedback on, thumbs up on the option that you agree with. Just want to make sure that I'm counting votes properly. So infer dependencies. So those are the two options: either infer dependencies or do not infer dependencies. I see a question from John in the chat while we're taking those votes. What is the use case for Nameof? Can it pick up keys for objects? Yes, I think that is one of the things it can do. So you can do you can do stuff like this. Like this would give you like property. Okay, that's all I had. It was a very quick, trying to just get people's thoughts on this one. So I think we have a clear winner here. So unless there are other questions, I will hand it back to Stephanie. Oh, question from Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me answer that question. It's a good question. So I've made it a bit confusing here because I've used A for both the name and the symbolic name. So this resource name here, like that's actually going to be the name of the resource in Azure, whereas symbolic name is just a property of Bicep, really. It's not actually going to have any impact on any properties inside the resource. So if I do, let's just do symbolic name dot, sorry, symbolic name dot name here. I see that ChatGPT or Copilot is doing a pretty good job of figuring it out. This is going to be a resource name because this is the actual name of the resource. Whereas if we do name of symbolic name, then yeah, look, it's figured it out again. It's symbolic name. So this is the name of the symbol in Bicep rather than the actual resource name. And you don't have to just use this on resources. You can use it on variables or properties or other things. I can also, let me dig up a link to the PR if anyone's curious about what the implementation looks like. But yeah, this was really the only decision I think we were waiting on making before merging it. That's the PR. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to you, Stephanie. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Good. Let me reshare my screen. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure that the slides work for Android. Cool. Stan, let me know if you can see this. Hopefully that works. Yeah, unfortunately, the PowerPoint feature in Teams does not work on Android for some reason. Very unfortunate. So we'll have to go about this way of sharing the window. All right, Renee?
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So if you could please switch to the next slide. We have a couple of updates from the AVM team about modules, a new class of modules, which is utility modules, a couple of new features about our CI pipeline, and additional tool which Jack will show us, or at least talk about us, and some well-architected framework updates. The next slide, please. So for the module updates, since May, we have updates in pattern modules, about 10, and 5 new resource modules. And I will just pick one of each category to talk a little bit about it. So from the pattern modules, this would be the deployment script import image to ACR. This is a pattern module that I have developed and added because I needed it for another module that I'm working on. And the idea is to use the Bicep deployment script to import a container image into an Azure Container Registry. And you can use it in combination with private endpoints, with authentication to the source registry if you need it. And the idea was that for provisioning, for example, a container app job, you need to have the image during the provisioning time. And if you don't have it ready, you can just take a random image and rename it to the final name to be able to provision your resource before development is done. From the resource modules, I would like to highlight the last one, which is the DevOps infrastructure pool module, and it is our first module that has been developed by an external contributor. Still, the rules say that the owner needs to be an FTE, but John was developing the module, and we have added it to the registry. The next slide, please. The new utility modules class enables us to bring features that are not there yet, and or maybe are there but complicated to use. So we currently have 2 utility modules which have been proposed, not yet developed. The first one is the get environment one, where the idea is to use the suffixes, as you can see on the screenshot on the left one, for an ACR login server, for example, but also for storage accounts that the current region where the storage account is being deployed is also put into the URL if you need it. And all of this will be put into the get environment function once it's done. The second one is in AVM, we use a couple of common types, and we would like to have them in a separate utility module, so you do not need to reference or to create them every time you are developing a module. And the next slide, please. About new features and specification updates. The first one I briefly touched already. This will be a script that Jack will talk about in a couple of minutes. The second one is a documentation update, which I also added. I really love the possibility of AVMs to bring examples to the documentation where you would need to investigate, look it up. How would I need to fill in, for example, this array type with something meaningful that I can use for my module or my services to work. And by just declaring in the code for the module developer an example, in this case, how to use an to be honest, I'm not sure from which module it is, but the example shows if you want to use this resource with an Azure storage queue, you basically put in this into the environment variables, or if you would like to have it with an Azure storage, then you put in the connection string. It just improves the usability. Then the next one would be deprecation. Since we are not version 1 yet, deprecation is not that much of a deal, but it can be that module developers decide that a parameter, for example, is not needed or used in not needed anymore. there's a new one, so there is some kind of deprecation. And I've also added here an example to the documentation how this can be achieved by dealing with the parameters with default values, writing tests for them until eventually the deprecation is done and the parameter is being removed in a couple of versions. And the last point from this slide is the improved versioning documentation, just a little more hints and clarification on the semantic versioning and how we can, what the idea is, how we in AVM want to use it. And now please the next slide. And I think, Jack, this is the one that you wanted to take.
Yes, I'll take it from here. Thank you, Rene. So, hey everybody. So, just wanted to give an update on a couple more features in a bit more detail that Rene's given us an overview of there. So, one of the features that we've recently added to AVM and RCI for publishing modules is the ability to specify custom CI secrets. So, when you're contributing to a module, there may be a tenant-specific value. Common ones for these are like enterprise application object IDs that are specific to each tenant. And obviously, when you're developing a module in your own tenant, that enterprise application object ID is going to be different to the one that we have in the AVM tenant. And therefore, it makes publishing the module a bit difficult because the test will fail and therefore the module won't publish. A shout out to John Lurkos again, because this one was actually developed with the managed DevOps pool module. Pushed the need for this feature, as well as we had some others that we had a different workaround for in place before. But now we've made this an official thing that's supported in our CI. So you're able to specify create your own key vault in your own environment and add this as an environment variable to your GitHub CI setup and place in your tenant specific value, and then take that in as a secure parameter to your test files. Which we then obviously pass in the value from your GitHub environment secret. And then we in the AVM team, you need to notify us via the GitHub issue that, hey, I need one of these new tenant specific values adding to the AVM CI, so that when we get onto that publishing of that module, we use the AVM CI's tenant specific credential and off it goes, and it all works very nicely. If you currently have your AVM CI set up, you don't need to add this. This is optional. So if you don't need the custom CI secret functionality, you don't have to go and add it into your setup and pull it down to your fork. It's all transparent. We just skip over it if there's no need for it. But if it does exist, it will reference it, and the CI will also show you what it pulled in. So if you look at the bottom of the right hand side here on the slide, you'll see that it shows you it found values, and it will tell you how long the value was, but it won't tell you what the value is, obviously, because it's a secret or could be sensitive. So to help with troubleshooting as much as possible, we're trying to give you as much information without giving you the information on the secret. So yeah, great work, and please do keep raising big issues like this for complex scenarios, because we do get them solved and we turn this one around pretty quickly. And it's just helping us accommodate many more scenarios that I'm sure we're going to uncover with AVM, but this is the first time we've had one that we've had to change the CI for a little while. So thanks again, John, for the managed DevOps module and highlighting this issue, which we were able to work on and get solved. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So another one to help with contributions is a lot of feedback we've been having from new contributors, especially those of you newer to infrastructure as code and newer to Bicep, is that you'd love to contribute to AVM, but getting the test environment, your Azure tenant set up, your subscription set up, setting up your fork, configuring all the GitHub secrets, and getting just ready to be able to contribute. Also disabling all of the workflow pipelines so that you don't automatically trigger all the pipelines every time you push a change. Was painful, right? And it was putting some people off of actually contributing, which is absolutely not what we want to do. So what we've done, what I did a couple of months ago, is actually I built a PowerShell helper script that does all this for you. So you'll need the GitHub CLI installed, but I highly encourage you get that installed if you haven't got it installed already. and it will perform all of the steps that are highlighted here in the purple box. So steps 1, 2, and 3. It will bootstrap for you. So if you don't need anything cloned or anything forked to start with, but if you follow the script and fill it in, it will fill out all of this stuff. It will configure all your secrets. It will plumb it into your GitHub repo, do all those good things. So you're literally ready to rock and roll and start implementing your contribution to AVM and start testing your module. And you just need to enable the workflow that you need to enable. But this is in the contribution guide for Bicep, and I see Marte's pasted some links here in the chat. So as you're going through the contribution guide, you'll find a link to this script where you can copy it, use it, and hopefully get it set up. One quick call out: we haven't got the custom CI feature added into this script just yet because it's optional. And it's not needed. It's not so important. But we are going to add that very shortly. It's on my list to do in the coming weeks. So we'll also add the custom CI secret part in here as well. And we're looking to also add a feature to update an existing fork. So like if you've already got a fork, we've already set up your GitHub environment, it will sort of do a scan of what you've got and what you haven't got. And bring it up to date with the latest CI specifications and what you need. So you can use it in a more of a brownfield scenario as well. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming there. And next slide, please, Stephanie. And final one from us in the AVM team, the alignment to WAF. So obviously one of the key points of AVM is that our module or resource modules always align to the well-architected framework defaults for the high impact or high severity recommendations. We're currently working through the reliability recommendations for the top 20 Azure services, which are everything you can imagine, virtual machines, storage accounts, virtual networks, VPN and express route gateways, those common resources that a lot of us are deploying on a daily basis or editing. We're nearly finished, if not done already, with these. And in Bicep, all of these have had PS rules added for them as well, and added to the PS rule WAF reliability baseline. So everybody's benefiting if you're using PS rule as well. We've written some custom tests for some specific thing like zone aware resources or zone redundant resources, where for zonal resources, we want to ensure that parameters in the modules don't have a default value, so it doesn't automatically put everything in zone 1 or zone 2, and instead the consumer of the module has to decide where that's going and make a decision, because that's the right thing to do. But for those zone redundant resources, they'll default to a zone redundant deployment of that instance by default. And obviously all of those parameter input values and the default values you can override at the time of calling the module. But out of the box, if you were to consume a module with only its required inputs, they should be aligned to the well-architected framework high severity recommendations. We're now starting to tackle the security pillar of the well-architected framework. And again, for those same top 20 services, and we are going to publish what those top 20 services are in the AVM FAQ. So stay tuned. We are going to add those in. We, however, have been looking through a lot of security recommendations, and we're looking at the Microsoft Defender for Cloud recommendations and the security recommendations that our product offers that are published. And again, we're taking only the high impact or high severity recommendations from that source. But we're wondering, are there any other sources across Microsoft that we should be looking at that we're just missing? This is an open question to the community. So if there is, please do paste a link in the chat, or feel free to connect with us offline, or post a GitHub issue in the AVM repo. We'd love to hear if you think there's a source that we're missing that's an official Microsoft source, because we want to make sure that we've got all bases covered. There's a great number of recommendations in the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, but we just want to make sure that whilst we're doing this assessment, we've got all bases covered. So please do let us know. And I think one thing that's really important for us is, as we scale and we grow the number of modules, the ability to test these things programmatically is becoming ever more important. And saying that something can be checked manually or by a human is becoming pretty much a non-starter for us now, because it just can't scale that way. So we're taking the stance of we must be able to test, and the test has to be written and available for us to enforce the recommendation. So let us know if you need to be able to enforce, if you've got a recommendation if there's a recommendation that needs to be enforced, we have to be able to have a PS rule or a PESTA test for it that we can write and check the template for. If not, we're not going to enforce that recommendation in the module going forward, because it just doesn't scale, and then there's too many too high of a risk for a human slip up. So just be aware that if you think that something should be set as a default in a module and it's not, and it conflicts with WAF, it'll probably be likely because the test it isn't possible to test. We are going to start documenting these exceptions. There's not many of them, which is great to hear. But for the ones that do exist, we'll be starting to document them as well, and you'll be able to see why they've been made an exception for. If you do spot anything though that you think should be covered and isn't, always feel free to raise a module issue. We're always willing to go through that and come back to you and make sure that we aren't missing anything. So yeah, that's it from us. I see there's some stuff in the chat. I'll go and have a look in a second, but I will pass it back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Yeah, you could answer the questions in chat if you want to.
Yeah, I see there's one from Alan around user access administrator for the script. It's because it needs to make RBAC assignments for the SPN that is granted for the CI to work. So you need some sort of permissions there. So you don't need user access admin. If you've got other permissions that give you permissions to make role assignments, that's absolutely fine. But user access admin is generally what's required there with the least set of privileges. We could look at changing that to the RBAC, the new RBAC built-in role. I'll have a look at that, but user access admin is sufficient for what you need for there. And as for the other one around SAST tooling, and do we use SNIT or Chekhov or anything like that? We don't. We use PS rule because it all runs on before the resources are deployed, and a lot of these do run also at static analysis style. But we also are trying to use Microsoft official or owned tooling so that we don't have to take a dependency on things that we don't have control of. So yeah, that's just something that we've taken a decision on. Happy to chat about that more if via a GitHub issue. If you want to chat about that one further, please do. Yeah, I think that's it from questions.
Sounds good. There was one at the end by Andreas, AVM extension to .NET Aspire.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I would love to learn more about that. Please do raise a GitHub issue on AVM for that one so we can learn more about this and have a chat. So yeah, raise an issue for us, Andreas, and we can have a chat about that one.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack, and thanks, Renee. We can move on to our next topic. So requested updates. These are the questions and updates that people have asked for in the GitHub issue for this September community call. So the first one, language version 2.0 issues. We are currently looking through the issues and trying to figure out the best course of action for these. So we'll have a better update next month for this. But if anyone has any specific comments or questions that they have, please definitely put it in chat and we can answer those now. For the second one, publishing to OCI registries in Auris.NET client. Yeah, publishing to the OCI registries and GitHub, we've gotten a lot of feedback from this, people saying that they want to have support here, and the more feedback that we get, we're starting to prioritize it. We're looking into this, but we haven't found the time to prioritize this just yet in our current semester planning. So thanks for bringing this up, and we'll look into this a little bit more for the Auris.NET client. There has been some work done on this, but there hasn't been too much progress either. So no big update on this, but it is on our plate right now. What if without write permissions? This is an issue that has been brought up, and a lot of people are looking for support here. We're actually working on this now, but we need to work with some external teams to be able to get this out. So it is a little bit slower than we are hoping for and slower than we anticipated, but this is something that's currently in the works. Extendable Bicep pream files out of experimentals. So we are getting almost done with our feedback interviews for Bicep pream files. We are just trying to make sure that we have all of the boxes checked and make sure that we have as many features in the extendable Bicep param files that people are hoping for before we get it out of experimental and into GA. I do have a little feedback question on this one, so I will ask you guys after the last update. And then available API versions. Yeah, this is something that we have been struggling with a little bit in terms of working with RPs. In terms of the Bicep AZ types, the API versions are strictly from the specific RP's Swagger updates. We don't really have any ability to, I guess, fix that on our side. We can look into a little bit more, but if you guys see that some API versions are not available per RP, I would highly suggest opening up a support ticket with that specific RP, and they could try to get that out as soon as possible. We can look into this a little bit. Sorry, did someone say
Stephanie,
something?
another issue to that I noticed today is that, for example, there are API versions that are available. For example, if you go to the portal and see the JSON view for the resource, you're going to have the available API versions, but these are not published to Bicep. For example, these are, and what I noticed today is the websites or the web apps API versions. There are newer versions that are not published to Bicep, for example. And of course, when they're not there, you don't get IntelliSense and other stuff, which basically prevents me from using a higher version. But I also know that, for example, a specific feature, in this case for web apps, was the end-to-end encryption is available there. And if you set it as a property, it's being set. But I guess maybe some of the latest versions that are not published have this property available. So yeah, there is some kind of a mixture of what is available, what is not, what is published, and what is not published.
Got it. I do think it is the RP Swagger, like the team not updating on their end, but
Yeah.
anyone on our team, if you could correct me at all. Otherwise, yeah, I would highly recommend opening a support ticket with that RP so they could update their Swagger and have it automatically updated on our end to have the IntelliSense.
Just to note, opening support ticket for something like that, it's just pain in the ass, because you have to go through those support engineers, which usually will not connect you directly to the people that are responsible for the services. And then you have to waste a lot of time, and that time I can spend better doing something more meaningful than talking to support. That's the ugly truth.
Right. Anthony, Alex, I guess, is there any other way? I'm not quite sure. I guess the best course of action, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the support ticket is the right first step, and we definitely recognize that support is not as efficient of a path as anyone would like, but we can't fix that tomorrow. So we would, and if you're up for it, that's the best thing to do. Otherwise, we need some indication when something is not right on either side of that problem stand. So it could be a GitHub issue that you open that we can try to route to the team, or you can send us an email that we can try to route to the team. But we don't have enough context to know the scope of when that's happening. So if we get an indication, we'll do what we can to pass it on to the right team, but we can't guarantee that they're going to fix it.
There is this repository or GitHub project, Azure REST APIs or something like that. And I wish that would work, where you can log all these issues there, and the different teams responsible for them would just fix those things and fix them. Because some of them are very small, like publishing a new version or fixing something. Sometimes I think there was even one API that had a typo, which could be fixed in a newer version, for example, very easily. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't seen, even when logged there, the issues being fixed. So yeah, just a repo that doesn't work, I guess, in that case.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
the reality is that that Azure doesn't focus enough on kind of API documentation health. And so we're kind of running a guerrilla program to to get this information to the right team,
Yeah.
which sucks. It's not good, but we'll try our best. I will say that I think that things are moving in the right direction in terms of teams caring more about their APIs. I don't know if people are familiar with the type spec project that Microsoft started to better describe APIs instead of hand authoring these Swagger files. So there are some movements that are headed in the right direction, but it's not going to be fixed quickly.
Yeah. Otherwise, I have to open like 40 or something cases for various issues. There are things like an API doesn't support setting the identity to none. You have to set the whole identity object to null, for example, and that's just one API that doesn't work correctly.
Yeah.
Other APIs, for example, you cannot specify a null for a property. You have to completely omit the property and this kind of stuff that just really makes development hard in such situations. But of course, you have to open a case for each of these. I'm just gonna spend every day talking to support.
Yeah, if you'd prefer, and if the choice is, you know, you're not going to create a support ticket and the issue will languish, it would be better if you don't want to create a support ticket to create a GitHub issue in the Bicep repo, and you could create a Uber issue with all the issues that you've seen, and we'll split them up and get them to the right team. If that's a more efficient way of doing it, we're happy to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the questions, Dan. I know a lot of people are struggling with this, so I mean, the more people talk about it, the more it becomes an issue. It can raise up to all the RPs to get this done sooner. Cool. So I did have a question in terms of feedback on Bicep params. So something that a lot of people, an experience that a lot of people have shared actually, is that they want the ability to be able to omit any parameters in the Bicep param file for it to be supplied at runtime. So for example, right now, what we're doing is, oops. This is the only way to be able to have the parameter defined here and allow you to supply it at runtime without having to actually define it in the Bicep param file. A lot of people are saying that this isn't the best use case. So in the case, oops. In the case that we allow parameters to be emitted from the Bicep param file, there will be some IntelliSense issues, and we're trying to find a way to best design this experience for everyone. And I wanted to see your feedback on if we supplied a decorator like this, like runtime param, and you just state the parameters that you will be supplying at runtime, would that be enough for your experience, or is this something that you want to just not have to include this line at all and not include these parameters at all as well? What do you guys think? Because if we decide to support this kind of experience, then we lose really any sense of IntelliSense, because it wouldn't be reading from the main Bicep file. It wouldn't be checking all of the parameters that are included and not included. So it would be great if we could get some feedback on this. Let me see the questions. Read environment variable. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, if we did something like param skew goals runtime param, something like that. Would that be fine for everyone? I would be worried about having to include this for every single parameter. It might just be a little annoying, I think, for the experience for users. But if that's what you guys would like, and if that's a user experience that you guys would be willing to do, we could try that as well. But yeah, it would be great to get feedback on this. Specifying it explicitly, looks like a lot of people like to be able to specify explicitly. Okay, then we could look into this a little bit more and come back next month for any designs that we have and asks for your guys' feedback on each design. Then we do export. Okay, decorator feels more appropriate. Watch out for implicit type. Okay, great. Then yeah, thank you guys for your feedback. We'll look into this a little bit more. Cool. I think that was everything that we were hoping to cover in terms of requested updates and any topics. Does anyone have any questions? Please raise your hand. You could come off mute and ask us directly. Hopefully we answered all of your questions in the requested updates, but if there's anything that I may have missed or any more information that you want to provide for any of these updates, please do.
Stephanie, can I bring up one topic that I forgot to include in the deck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I had mentioned, or we had mentioned this last community call, but we are participating in the PowerShell Summit that's happening in April in Bellevue. And the call for papers just opened. So the Bicep product group and the Terraform product group are both going to deliver sessions there ourselves. But we really, really would love some community sessions here as well. And we've been talking to the conference organizers to make sure that some of those sessions get prioritized. So if you have any topic that you want to cover, if you want to show off what you're doing at your organization, or you want to cover a specific feature in depth or pattern or anything that you're interested in covering, please do submit a proposal. I'll put the link right here to the Sessionize. So yeah, I'm just bringing some more attention to this. The papers close, or the call for papers closes on the 15th of November. So we'll have one more opportunity at the next community call to remind you about all this. But yeah, please do submit some sessions. Or just attend if you were thinking about attending. Just know that the IAC is going to be well represented here now as well, in addition to all the great content that's already always at the PowerShell Summit. So if you can attend in person, would love to see you there. Tickets are available, or submit some sessions. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Someone's asking about any Bicep talks at Ignite. Alex, I think no. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is quite difficult to get an Ignite session. Frake actually has the best luck of anybody here, so hopefully that will continue. I think the reality of Ignite and Build at this point is it's more marketing than education. It used to really be both, but there's just such limited sessions. It's tricky. Alan, we have literally submitted that session. We threw AI in there a bunch of times to see if that would work, but that did not work. So we'll keep trying. We submitted some labs as well, but as of now, there are no official talks from the product group at Ignite this year.
Copilot for Bicep, Bicep Copilot. A lot of people are bringing this up. Yeah, I think Ignite has just been extremely limited on what they want to provide, and everything has to be some sort of Copilot AI that they can market well. Well, any other questions? Any numbers on usage of Bicep? I'm not quite sure actually if we are able to do that, Alex.
Yeah, we've shared some numbers in the past. We can try to pull up some numbers again. We don't have anything prepped that we can just show immediately, but the usage continues to grow for Bicep specifically, and I see usage overall. But we can try to pull together some numbers next time, maybe.
Good. Yeah, we could definitely look into figuring out how best to display this. Further expansions with Bicep? Radius work. Yeah, we've been working with Radius. Is there something specific you're referring to with Radius, Joshua? And Temu, yeah, we could definitely share like the top 5, top 10 resources that are most deployed. I'm not sure how helpful that would be for everyone, but if you're interested, we could find a way to put that together. Okay, custom providers or other providers. Yeah, we are figuring out how best to do this. So right now, the way that we're expanding out to third-party providers, we have to kind of build the extensibility per provider, which is just a little bit of extra work than we had. That then is easy to be able to support every single provider. But we are looking into what to prioritize next. We're thinking about Key Vault, possibly DevOps, some other things. So if you could give us some, I guess, feedback on which providers you would like us to work on next, we can definitely try to prioritize that soon. But in terms of supporting like a larger number of third-party extensions, we don't have the ability to do that anytime soon. Oh, DevOps. Okay. Keep up in DevOps. It's good. Yeah, we can look into that a little bit more. Yeah, so I mean, currently the only extensions that we support right now are Kubernetes and MS Graph, and both of those have been just a lot of work to be able to get it to the best quality that we can. So building any other providers is just a little extra work. We're trying to see if there's any chance we can expand third-party providers to be able to build it themselves, to be able to be supported in Bicep, but that's just something that a lot of providers are saying, we want you to build it. We want support, but we don't want to build it. So looking into that as much as we can. Okay, DevOps, a lot of people are saying DevOps would be great. Sounds good. Your feedback has been heard. We will find a way to prioritize this. But yeah, any other questions? Great. Thanks everyone for your feedback, and thanks for showing up to our community call. We'll have more updates and more presentations next month. Thanks everyone. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks to you.